For more on the rapidly deteriorating situation, I spoke a brief time ago with A Seche, who served as US ambassador to Yemen. A Seche, the UN wants more than $2 billion to help the people of Yemen this year. 10 million are estimated to be in dire need. Is the world going to respond, do you think?
I certainly hope they'll respond. I think that there's a lot of issues beyond just trying to get the money out of donor countries. There's also a lot of mechanical issues, a lot of logistical issues inside of Yemen that need to be resolved, because you can have all of this aid stacked up on ships waiting to get into ports without the authority of either the Saudi coalition or the Houthi Saleh coalition to allow them to move the aid where it needs to be put most usefully. So I think, again, getting the money is one thing, and it's going to be hard to do that. Getting the aid into Yemen effectively is another thing. That's going to be a huge difficulty.
Well, because Yemen is in the middle of this war, which has raged for more than 2 years, and it's so complicated, isn't it, with the Yemeni government battling Houthi rebels, the Saudis and the Iranians fighting a proxy war, and then thrown into the mix you also have Al-Qaeda, or an offshoot of them, and Islamic State, don't you? Is there any sign at all of that war subsiding?
I don't see it immediately. I hoped at the end of last year there might be some opportunity, but it was dashed. And since then, and now with the change in administrations, I'm not sure they have the same kind of sense of urgency that perhaps former Secretary Kerry had at the end of his tenure. I think they're looking at this through a slightly different optic. And so I think we're going to see perhaps a little doubling down on the part of the United States with the Saudi coalition to go after the Houthi Iranian, as you say, I hate to use the word axis, but partnership to the extent there is that, and send that message to Iran that the Trump administration seems so determined to convey.
Now, there's been this US commando raid in Yemen that resulted in civilian casualties. How much do you think that strained the relationship between the US government and the Yemenis?
I think it damaged it. I think we can recover from that, but I do think that the Yemeni government had an obligation to step up and say, you can't just come in and trample on our sovereignty and kill our citizens in a raid, which we don't really necessarily feel we were able to clear. I think there was a lot of angst on the part of the Yemenis, and so this is a sovereignty issue for them, but I do believe they also value the partnership with the United States and the support they've received from us.
But Yemen was also part of President Trump's executive order. It was part of that immigration ban initially. So is that also making the relationship even more complicated?
One imagines it has to be. This is not something they can ignore. They felt like they were really working as a partner with us, and this is not how they perceive that partnership to be rewarded.
You were the ambassador to Yemen. It was already a poor country before this war. Just how dire do you think the situation is there now?
It's terribly dire right now. I think that, you see the figures, and the UN figures are a little bit squishy. They don't quite have the access to hospitals anymore that they used to have, and so the network for data is a little bit compromised. But I think when they say numbers like 460,000 children in acute severe malnutrition, that's close to famine for these kids. They're really in terrible straits, and there really needs to be some urgency attached to this assistance plea they've made.
Ambassador A Seche, thank you very much for joining us.
My great pleasure. Thank you.